This is Things Police See, First-Hand Accounts, with your host, Steve Gold.
Welcome to the podcast that interviews active and retired police officers about their most intense, bizarre, and sometimes humorous moments on the job. I am Old Gingerface here with you as always. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me and the rest of the listeners. I truly appreciate you. Exciting stuff happening with TPS. Have a big partnership in the works, in the final stages of it. Can't wait to announce it with a sponsor that absolutely aligns with the show, which is what I'm always looking for. I'm excited to make that announcement. I hope you had a good New Year's and Christmas and all that good stuff. And I'm really excited, and it warms the cockles of my heart to tell you that you guys really loved when I had my wife come on, and we did an end of the year review of how the podcast did, the numbers, the demographics. It even tells me like what audiobooks and what other podcasts you guys listen to. And I also interviewed her about being what it's like. I asked her like 15 questions about being a police officer's wife, and she was nervous to do it, but she came on and she did a great job. She did a fantastic job. I even got emails saying that what a wonderful voice she has, and she did, and her answers were great, and so that was really cool. I'm glad you guys like that. I definitely would bring her on in the future for another show, for if it makes sense, if there's some topics she could comment on with me. I had a really fun time doing it. I think we both had a better time than we expected. So thank you for all the welcoming and warm wishing for Carrie, the great Carrie Gould. Thank you for that. But we are back. We are back to the interviews of the men and women of law enforcement. The whole point of the show is for you to hear kind of a behind-the-scenes, fly-on-the-wall witness to what it is these people actually do for a job, to gain a better appreciation for it. I always ask the same 5 questions, kind of a boilerplate as the backbone of the show. And from there, we talk about all kinds of stuff. But you guys know the questions. The first hot call you went on, the most strange or bizarre call you went on, the most intense or terrifying call, positive or heartwarming situation, and advice to new law enforcement candidates. So all that being said, I have a fantastic guest waiting right now in the green room. 30 years in law enforcement at the city, county, and federal levels. Last 23 years with the DEA conducting undercover operations. Contributing author to the book Wounds to Wisdom, popular book with a bunch of stories compiled from people in law enforcement. I'm very happy to bring on the great Richard Oakley. Rich!
How you doing, Steve?
Great to have you on, man. I appreciate it. And the great Deborah Green connected us.
Yes.
And she's also a contributing author, is that right?
She's not an author. She decided, I think her story was a little bit too raw for her to actually do. So yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. Excellent.
Well, I'm grateful that she connected us, man. You've had quite the career. I mean, you've worked at every level of law enforcement, which is cool. So it sounds like you started, I'm guessing, in a town or a city.
Yes, I started in the city of New Brunswick, New Jersey, as a patrolman in 1967.
Wow, you look good, brother. I would I would say you're not a day over 45.
Wow,
you're looking good, man. That's
Thank
a long and no offense, but that's a long time ago.
It is, yeah.
What was it like in New Jersey starting in the late 60s? Like a police academy, the culture, and especially being a black guy, was it pretty intense?
Oh yeah, the police. We didn't have our own police academy. New Jersey didn't have its own. The localities didn't have a central academy, so they sent us to the New Jersey State Police Academy in Seagirt.
Oh, fun!
Which is on an old National Guard air base. So you had all the Quonset huts and all the trimmings of a military base, to include the 0530 drills out in the 0530 drills out on the parade ground and stuff. they had a pre-test at a central location to get on the job. And I'll never forget that. I mean, I think that test was probably 2.5 hours, and it was brutal. I mean, they would put pictures up on the screen, and then later on they would give you some MOs, and then they would go back and say, okay, picture number one, what was their MO? It was like, oh, you know,
Wow.
it was tough. I walked out of there. I said, forget about it. I know I didn't make this.
Yeah, I've taken a bunch of police tests in my life, and they're all different. But one of them did have stuff like that. They'd flash a picture, and then you had to remember, call
Right.
you back to like what was the condition of the window, or whatever it
Yes.
was, and you're
Yes.
like,
Yes.
oh my!
Yes.
I thought the exact same thing. I had a very comprehensive police test like that, and I thought I absolutely bombed it. But it was like the third time I took a police test, and by that time I kind of like prepared. The first one I didn't prepare at all. The third one I was like, okay, I'll prepare, and I got in like the top 5, and I was like, wow,
Right.
that's unbelievable because I feel
Right.
like I failed.
Right.
So
Right.
you were dealing with, was that academy taught by troopers too? Obviously.
Yes, it was. It was taught by troopers, and to your earlier point offline, most of those troopers were former Marines,
Yeah.
and they were all the big guys.
Yeah, the troopers, they started as a fraternity of Marines, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yep. 6 foot tall,
Hmm.
mean Marines.
Yes,
Yeah, and they, especially because it's not even their cadre they're dealing with, so they're probably like, we'll just kick these guys' asses.
exactly.
Damn, man, that's awesome. So you were local police for how long? 7 years?
I went from 67 to 72, and then from 72 to 74, I worked for our uh, a county prosecutor's office in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Yeah, it was
Okay.
Union County Prosecutor's Office. So I worked there for a couple of years, and then um, a couple of a couple of DEA agents came to the office and said, "Hey, we got a couple of real good undercover investigations, but we don't have any black agents. But we heard you have a guy that works undercover." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you mind if we use him?" He said, "Ask him if he says okay." So that's what happened. I said, "Yeah." So I went there. I was with them for maybe three or 4 months doing undercover work for them. And when it was finally over, one of the agents walked over and said, "Hey, they're looking for guys like you. Here's an application." I said, "Man, I'm good. I'm good."
Yeah.
I sent it in anyway, not expecting to hear anything. And about a year later, they said, "We want you to come to New York City for an interview." I was
Nice.
like, "Okay."
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Do you hear that weird noise, Rich?
No,
It sounds like a weird clicking noise. Is there anything going on in your computer or anything?
I don't think so.
It sounds so weird. Is someone playing with a toy truck or something nearby?
Oh, really? No. Huh.
That's really weird. Trying to figure it out. Huh.
I don't
Well,
hear.
I'll try to edit out in post anyways.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
mark down the time. So you go from, so you're in the prosecutor's office, and I'm sure you're doing undercover stuff. And were you doing homicides too?
Uh, Homicides I was doing in the police department,
Oh,
along
okay.
with narcotics, but the um, prosecutor's office was strictly undercover, and I would be out there because I was the only black. I would be out there with no cover,
Oh, jeez.
no cover, because they knew that any surveillance that came in the area, if you see two white guys in a car, well, you know, you're in
Yeah.
it. So
Wow, that's
yeah, that was
interesting.
my,
And did you grow up in a black neighborhood? Were you like did you know the
uh,
lingo and all that stuff, or did you have to kind
yeah,
of?
yeah. The My neighborhood was multiracial. It was Italian, uh, Jews, blacks primarily, and I didn't realize until a few years ago that most of the Jewish people that I knew were Holocaust survivors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
they
Wow.
never talked about it, or and it was really interesting.
Yeah. So it sounds like you grew up in a very diverse community.
Yes,
So you go through this horrible police academy. You work for a number of years doing undercover stuff, doing homicides, and then like, did you have any hesitation at all when it was like, oh, another law enforcement academy? This is going to be great.
I thought about it. I said, "You got to be kidding me!" And and then they told when I went for the interview, they said, "Okay, guys, if you pass the interview, we're going to give you some information. Follow it to the T. Go back. If you're not in shape, get your ass in shape.
Yeah.
Check your credit report. If you got a lot of outstanding bills, make sure you get rid of them. Your criminal record is going to be checked, the whole bit, right?" So I said, "Okay, thank you." And then one of the agents that was on the panel, he asked me to stay, and he took me up to the DEA office. New York is the largest division in DEA. He took me up there and was talking to me, telling me what a good job it is, blah blah blah. And so I said, okay. The next letter I get is, I guess, after they did the background, because I go home at night and I see people, my neighbors would peep out the door and they would say, "Hey, Rich, can we talk to you?" "Sure." "There was some guy around here today with a big old badge asking questions about you, and whether you drank, had all the wild parties and stuff, used dope." And we told him that you had a lot of wild parties and stuff. I was like,
Thanks
oh,
a lot.
right? And then he said, no, we're just kidding.
Yeah, doing the background. I'm doing the background right now. I just did a residential check and went and talked to the neighbors and happy to report the candidate I'm looking at is everybody loves him. He's shoveling the old people out in the winter. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right,
Oh,
then,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, this
yeah.
is good.
And to think about the background back then, I imagine they still do it. They do uncultivated. In other words, they know you're going to list the people that are going to say, "Hey, great
Right.
guy." So they go out and pick people that you never even put on the list.
Yeah. Yeah. When I did background for LAPD for a couple of years and they would, that was a trick that they taught me when they were training me was like, get the references and then ask the references for another reference.
Right.
Because they'll give you like an ex-girlfriend or somebody that will like give you a
Yes.
little bit more of this straight scoop on what's going on. And it did lead to stuff too that was
Sure.
like unfortunate for the candidate. You know, it was like, oh, okay, I guess I should look into this. But yeah, of course, when they give you the references, they're going to be like people that love them, you know?
Oh yeah. Right. So they
Yeah.
expect that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rich, can you take us back in shooter's choice for local or DEA? Can you think of the first hot call you went on, the first call that like you had like a little bit of an adrenaline dump, and you were like, "Whoa, this is the real deal."
I get a phone call, well, dispatch from headquarters, and it said that report to U.S. Route 1 near the exit 9, New Jersey Turnpike exit 9. There was an auto accident, and this was Thanksgiving Eve, and that part of the roadway was our jurisdiction. Uh, Although a trooper would show up eventually, but what it was a family coming up from the south. There were five people, husband, wife, three children in the car. They ran into a tanker. The
Oh,
car is engulfed in flames.
oh,
I get there. The fire department's right behind me. They tried their best to put the fire out. All five people perished.
oh,
And then the next day, when I reported in, I had to go with the ID guy to the autopsy of the five victims, and I will never forget that. Uh, Steve, when they were cutting, they have to do the autopsy to find out whether the bones were broken because of the accident or was it because muscle contractions and stuff, right? And then
oh,
see whether any kind of alcohol or drugs in the body. But never forget when the medical examiner cut open the first body, and it looked like roast beef to me.
Oh,
I couldn't eat roast beef for the longest time. And then just that smell of burnt flesh
yeah.
and the blood and stuff that I never knew at the time that I would never forget. You know, uh, but yeah, that
That's
was
in,
brutal. That
that's
was brutal.
intense, especially to a family. That is,
Yeah,
and
and
that
they couldn't tell who male female for a while. Because the bodies were just charred.
yeah, that was a thing. More because my father's a retired police officer, but he said they used to send that's like a thing that's not that common anymore. But they used to send not just detectives, but like a patrol guy to autopsies. It was very
Yeah,
common,
yeah.
and it kind of has stopped happening. Like I've been in law enforcement 19 years. I've never been to an autopsy. They didn't take us there in police academy,
Hmm.
but my dad said it was pretty common. They used to go to autopsies, and now I don't. Now they probably look at the DA's office. Probably wants like a homicide investigator or somebody a little bit
Yeah.
a keener eye to be there than just a patrol guy.
Hmm.
But they even used to do it in police academy. The academy I went to, they used to go to the morgue and everybody'd witness an autopsy. But they said there was too many squashes hitting the cement floor because some people just check out, and then you got to call the chief of police and be like, hey, your recruit's got a hemorrhage in his brain because his coconut bounced off the floor. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
intense, man. Wow,
Yeah.
you must have, and then talk about just I don't know, sad Thanksgiving for you too. The next day you're supposed,
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
you probably feel grateful for what you have.
Hmm. You sit there and you think about that. Yeah, I couldn't get that family out of my head.
Yeah,
And it was just, yeah, yeah.
that
And
isn't
then you think about it. Well, they Thanksgiving. Then what comes next? Christmas. And
right.
whole family wiped out.
Yeah,
You know?
that's intense. And back then, were you offered any kind of counsel, or did any supervisor pull you aside and say, "You all right," or just
No,
suck it up?
suck it up. Yeah, yeah. And you go from call to call to call, and never have any downtime to regroup. You just went.
Yeah, yep. That's old school. That's the way it was. That's why there was I mean, still is a lot of drinking and a lot of self-soothing going on.
Hmm. Hmm.
Especially back then, because I think back then, in like even like when my dad started, it was like you ask for help or go see a psychologist, like all the red flags go up, and there's no. It feels like you've done something wrong.
Yeah. Plus you're afraid that if you went, am I going to lose my job now? They're going to think I'm a wacko, put me on what they used to call the rubber gun squad,
Right.
and stuff like that. And so yeah, it was a lot on you. It was a lot on you, and I think even if they had stuff back then, I don't think many people would have participated in it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't even have walkie-talkies until 1972. We had a call box
Yeah.
key. When the alarm went off, you went over to your call box, you put the key in, picked up the phone, went right to dispatch, and they tell you what they wanted you to do. We had no protective vests, none of that stuff. We had a can of mace and a device called the Iron Claw. I don't know if you could.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Iron Claw, right?
For
Uh,
manipulating people's wrists and stuff.
yes, yes, that was a come along, uh, and that was it. That's all you had.
It's crazy, man. Like, yeah, I know. As they're redoing policy and procedure, I did notice that back in the day when they had call boxes in Massachusetts and stuff, a lot of policy and procedure allowed for signal shots, warning shots,
Oh, yeah,
which are a big no-no now. But if you only have a call box and you're on a city block and you can't get to it, fire a couple rounds in the air, because then at
yeah,
least they'll be able to find you.
exactly.
And obviously they took those right out. But that's crazy, like, oh man, I'm in trouble. Let me fire a couple of rounds. I mean, talk about you've seen so much innovation and change in law enforcement since you
Oh,
started.
unbelievable. You know, uh, we'd have to go in and type our reports at the end of the day. Now guys could do it in their CADs and then right in the car and be done with it.
Yep. Send it in.
We had a dictaphone. You could actually sit there and talk your report, and then somebody would type it the next day. But
Oh, really?
there was a line waiting to do that, so yeah, it was faster just to sit there and type it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Rich, can you tell us about a strange or bizarre thing you dealt with in your career?
Yeah, wow. There was we had a really strange. I don't know if you could. Well, I don't know if I would label it suicide, accident, but there was this guy who lived on this little plot of land, and he had a, a cesspool. And for kicks, he used to like to lower himself into this stuff and then
Oh,
pull himself back up. Right.
what?
Well, one day the rope broke, and that was it. I'll never forget it. He was down there, and the fire department came, and they're trying to. They eventually got him out, but you can imagine what that looked like. I
A
mean,
call from hell.
and smell. Oh my god! Oh, it was brutal.
Wow. So
That
he
that
like that.
autopsy was rough.
Yeah. So that excited him or something about it
Yeah,
he
yeah.
liked.
He was getting sexual gratification from doing that.
Unbelievable. That is something that's what's so great about this podcast. You can't make this stuff. You would never think of that.
Right? Yeah,
That's.
that was unbelievable, man. And then
And
I
what do you
had a
tell the
guy.
family? Do you tell them like he slipped and fell in, or do you tell them the straight poop?
We told him he had an accident. Made it sound like maybe he was trying to do something, work around it or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want to go into the real nitty gritty on that one.
Yeah. That is wild.
That is, that is, you know. And then I had a guy. Neighbors called. They said, "Hey, we haven't seen this guy in about 3 months. An older gentleman." So we go to the house on a welfare check, and it's wintertime. We go in. Um, this man was an elderly man. He was in his bed, dead. He had been dead for who knows how long, but he's been dead so long that his skin was like leather,
Wow.
leather. He just all the body fluids were drained out of him, and uh, decomposition, but the skin was just like leather.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah,
It is amazing. And no two are the same too with like a body that's left for a long time.
right, right.
Oh, nasty. That is nasty.
Then I had a guy that decided to take his life with a shotgun, put it in his mouth, and when I got there, brain matter all over the ceiling, and you never forget that. And you're picking up pieces of that stuff and putting it in the bags, along with the medical examiner.
Yeah. It's really stuff that no one should have to see.
Right.
But somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to
Yeah.
see it.
Right. Right. And the fact is, to your point, most people don't see this.
Yeah.
Most people don't ever have to see this.
Yeah, I've heard those stats before, even just Hayseed PD, wherever, small town USA, the average cop will see, it's like 20-fold the
Yeah.
the trauma that a normal person will see. Just, I mean, if you think about it, if you're lucky and you're not in law enforcement or emergency services, the bodies you see will be at a wake. They're
Yeah. Yes.
that that's it. And they look, that's strange enough. I always think that bodies at wakes it never quite looks like the person that you remember.
Exactly.
They've changed, but
Exactly. Yeah.
it's a lot more pleasant than
hmm
what we look at.
Even to this day, like if my daughters will tell me a friend of theirs died from a drug overdose or whatever, first thing that I revert back to in my mind is an autopsy. And I think about what they're going to go through. I mean, family doesn't know it. We know that they're not feeling it, but just the thought of it, with the Y cut all the way down to the pube, and then once they take out samples of the organs. They put it in a garbage bag and throw it back inside and
Yeah.
sew it up. Uh,
It's crazy. It is crazy that people do that every single day. Like the
yeah,
autopsy, the doctors
right.
that, um, I mean, glad they're someone's doing it, but it's like you can't help but think there's something missing from their brain.
Oh, and like I knew Michael Baden personally. He was the New York ME, uh, well-known guy back in the 60s, 70s, and he did it for 40 years. 40
Wow.
years, and that's all he did. Every morning you get up, you go to work, and New York, forget about it.
Oh yeah. Gee, that turned you into a vegetarian. I'll have a carrot for lunch. Oh my gosh. Um, Rich, can you tell us about your most intense or terrifying call or investigation, whichever?
Yeah, June 14th, 1968. I was just 6 months out of the police academy, and there was I was trying to get into the narcotics squad. So the sergeant who was running the squad called me one day and he said, "Hey, if you want to get into the squad, start making some narcotic arrests while you're out there uh, on patrol." And then, so I started that. And one day he called me. He said, "I want you to meet me over at a certain location." I drove over, and he had four people lined up. And he said, "If you ever see these four people, no matter where they are, stop them and check them out, find out what they're doing." Okay. So June 14th, I was working the 0600 to 0600 to 1400 tour. I got off. I went home. I took off my duty belt, my uh, uniform shirt. All I had on was a t-shirt and my uniform pants and boots. I had forgotten to pick up something on the way home. So I run out, jump in my car, had a 65 Mustang, and I'm driving out of my location, and I see three of the four people standing in my apartment complex. So I pull over,
Weird.
right? I get out of the car, I walk up to them and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" Two of them pull pistols on me, forced me in my car, pushed me in the back seat. One of them took the driver's position, the other one was in the front seat, and one is in the back with me. My nightstick was in there. They were hitting me with that. So they're driving away. And I remember one of them saying, "You should have minded your own effing business," right? And they turned on the radio, and that's when I found out that they had just robbed a shoe store, armed robbery, and they were waiting for their getaway car. And I just happened to be, you know, uh, rookie cop nosy,
Yeah.
and bam. And so they drove down South Jersey. We went up around Philly. Then we finally made it into New York City, West End and 72nd Street.
Wow.
But they dumped me. They just dumped the car and they took off and they ran. And I sat there numb, trying to figure out why they didn't kill me like they said they were. And so I drove back home, went to my sergeant's, and told him what happened. And he said to me, "Did you have your gun?" I said, "No." "Why?" He said, "Because you're a probationary officer. You're supposed to carry, all officers are supposed to carry your weapon off duty. You could be fired now because you're in your probation period. You got 6 months more probation to go."
Oh.
So I was like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" So then my dream job, right? So then I thought about it. Yeah, yeah, I think I did have it, right? And so then that night we went to New York City to the Midtown Manhattan precinct. I spent a couple of nights there sleeping on a cot and told them the story. And they beat the bushes. I mean, they had people out calling in informants. Within 2 or 3 days, they had three of them.
Nice.
extradited him back to New Jersey, and then there was a black female. They picked her up later, and so the old process. You go to grand jury and all that stuff, and then finally we go to trial. And I had three defense attorneys. Prosecutor gets up, lays out the state's case. Uh, then the defense attorneys come on, one at a time. And they're first time in court in my life. I'm in this huge place, right?
Yeah.
12, 14 eyes looking at you. So the cross-examination was brutal, brutal. They finally were able to get me to admit that I didn't have my gun. So eventually, uh, the cross-examination continued for a little while. A couple of days later, the judges, the defense and the state are doing their closing arguments. Then the judge, that's over. The judge charges the jury, and the jurors go out. And I think it was about 3 o'clock. So 5 o'clock, he let them go home. They came back the next day. They deliberated. The third day, I think it was after about 3.5 hours, they came back, walk in the courtroom, and judge says, "I understand you've reached a verdict." "Yes, we have, Your Honor." And when they were coming out, not one of them looked at me, right? So judge said, hand the verdict to the bailiff. He looked at it, and then the judge said, on count, blah, 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 not guilty. Count, blah, 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 not guilty. Count, blah, 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 not guilty. And I sat there. Somebody kicked me in the gut.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And, here you are. You're supposed to be the good guy. But now these bad guys are walking. And now I was doing an extra duty job at one of the supermarkets. The guy walks in one day and he says, "They should have fired your ass." I was like, wow. After that, the night the trial was over, I went to the local bar and I just started drinking and drinking. And a couple of friends were trying to console me. But that was my descent into self-medication. And I mean, it was brutal for me. It was brutal.
Really?
Yeah.
Rich, that seems insane. You're the victim.
Yeah.
And you're just getting trashed. Like
Yeah.
they're just, everybody's mad at you.
Yes.
Was a lot of this because you didn't have your gun on you? Was that part of their decision making? Like, oh, he could have done something about it, but he didn't.
I think that the fact that I said I had the gun and didn't have it, but yeah, that was unbelievable, man. Unbelievable.
Jeez, that's insane. And then why do you think they didn't kill you? Do you think maybe because they knew you were a cop, or?
There was one guy in the car. One of them was kind of, I guess, no, let's just dump them somewhere, beat the shit out of them, dump them somewhere and leave them. Then one guy said, "Well, we already crossed state lines. Yeah, that's a Lindbergh law," and stuff like that. But they just dumped me and took off. But when we get to one of them took the stand, and what do you got to lose, right? So he says that they didn't kidnap me. I went along with this whole thing because the fourth defendant was a black female named Jeannie. I'll never forget. And I mean, oh my God, she was nothing to look at. I mean,
Okay.
but they tried to say I wanted her. That's why I came along with the deal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And if you can see this woman,
brother, you got a raw deal. This is not.
She looked like a female version of Don King, man. I was like, oh my God.
Wow, that's
yeah.
intense. How long was the car ride?
Oh, about 3-4 hours.
Oh my, that's such a
So they
long
were just,
time to think about they're going to kill you, you know?
yeah, yeah. And they were hitting me with my nightstick. Yeah, you should have minded your own business. We're gonna f you up. Asked me if I had any kids. At the time, I had two young boys,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I told them, yeah, and well, you may not see him again. That kind of stuff. It's like, okay, whatever.
This is incredibly angering. Man. Well, you know what? God sorts
That's
these
just,
people out, so I'm sure they got their
oh
life
yeah,
they probably
yeah.
didn't have a great life.
No, no. Uh, that's the story I share in the book.
Yeah.
Words to wisdom, wounds to wisdom.
Yeah, that is intense. Do you have any from your days at the DEA, do you have any notable or memorable investigations? Any stories from that?
Yeah, I had I was February of or January of 1980. I was stationed at the Newark, New Jersey Field Division, DEA, and we got a teletype. The special agent in charge received a teletype from headquarters saying the following cities aren't doing enough about the heroin epidemic, and our city was one of them. So the special agent in charge had an all hands meeting, and we read the riot act, blah blah blah. So I walked out, picked up the phone, called up a couple of people I do. I said, "Hey, uh, you know anybody doing any big heroin?" And the guy said, "Yeah, I got two organizations if you want." So one I worked in the daytime, one I worked at night, and the one in the daytime was the bigger one. Uh, they were doing $40,000 worth of heroin a day.
Wow.
A day. It made national news. So I went to one day. I went. There was a bar that they operated at called Wolf's Tavern in Newark. I went there. That's where most of the heroin sales took place. So I went one day afternoon to pick up a already scheduled heroin drop. And as I'm leaving, the guy says to me, "Hey, if you can come back at 5 o'clock, we have another package, new stuff coming in, real good stuff. We're going to give you a free sample. See what you think of it." So I said, "Okay." So I rushed back to the office. My backup team is behind me. My backup team consisted of Newark Narcotics Squad. Because I love to work with them because they know how to read me, you know. Uh, so we go back to the location. I parked by the bar. The guy gets comes over to the car, and I had my informant in the back seat, and he says, "Oh, can you leave him here? I don't like two on one. I've had problems like that." "Oh, okay, no problem." So as we're driving, he starts to ask me about uh, prior sales. "Hey, you remember that heroin I delivered at McDonald's? How was that?" It wasn't bad. And he'd go on and on. I knew I had a problem, but I didn't know what my problem was because I said, you know, this is a sample. There's no money involved. So we're driving up Frelinghuysen Avenue in Newark, and I look in my mirror. I see my backup team behind me, and he's still asking me questions. And as we get up along the entrance to the park, he said, "Make a left here." And he said it real quick, "Make a left." So I made a left. I go into the park, Weequahic Park, and it's like a cul-de-sac area that he told me to drive to. So I drive there. I park my undercover car. He gets out of the car, goes down an embankment, and he comes back, and I see his hands are all dirty. He says, "Come with me. It's down here." I said, "Whoa, what's going on, man? You got people here?" "No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. It's good. No, it's cool." So I walked to the top of the embankment. He thought I was right behind him coming down, and he turned, and that's when I saw the nickel-plated 22 caliber pistol.
Mm.
And the first thing that I thought about a 22, I said, if you get hit with this, you're done. because of the way the bullets bounce. I mean, seen it in autopsies, the way the bullets bounce around and
Yeah, the
tear up.
ricochet inside you.
Yes, yeah. So I was like, wow. And I, once again, wasn't armed. And so I turned and started running in a zigzag pattern. He's right behind me, firing a weapon.
Oh,
People in the park are like turning their heads, right? As I get to the bottom of the road, there's an older black guy sitting on his hood of his car. He said, "Are they shooting at you?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Get in, get in." So I got in his car. He goes to reach over the back seat, and I grab his arm because I thought I went from the frying pan into the fire. He said, "No, what's wrong?" I'm just trying to get you some water. And so he gave me some water. Where do you want to go? And I told him what
this
precinct
guy's
to
this
take me
guy's an
to.
angel.
Yeah, well, it gets even better. So the story comes out. Uh, the agents went to interview the guy because he was a potential witness. He said, I'll never forget this. "I'm a local minister." He said the night before, he said I'm at home with my wife and kids, and he said the Lord kept saying to me, "Go to Wheat Creek Park, go to Wheat Creek Park."
Wow.
He says, "Lord, I don't know why you're sending me there, but if it's your will, I'll go there." And there it was. And it was like,
Wow.
yeah,
As a
yeah,
Christian, Rich, I love that story.
yes. In fact, there was a magazine. I'll try to send you a copy of it. Uh, a magazine called Message Magazine, and they did an article on it one time.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
God, God protects a narc. I'll send you a copy of that. But yeah, and my pastor said to me, he says, "Man, there was a band of angels encamping around you that day."
Yeah.
You know, and then a friend of mine owned a bar, and one of the guys that was at the bar that night after the came in, and he says he was an undertaker. He said, "I don't even want to look at you. I'll never get your business."
Somebody's got your back.
Right?
Man.
So yeah, that and then there again, the next day when I got to the office, they put me right back into another undercover operation
Oh my gosh.
because they said they didn't want me to freeze up.
Yeah,
That was
get
the
like
therapy.
get right back on the bike.
That was the therapy. Get back in there, you know. And I had startled reflex for a while,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I went through that whole ordeal up until 1991. I carried the trauma from the 60s, this event at DEA, until 1991. Well, not actually, yeah, 1991. DEA finally decided to have some therapists on staff. Um, in 1985, I was selected to be a member of the DEA trauma team. They were just forming a trauma team. The purpose to be dispatched to agents, shootings, or homes, whatever,
Yeah.
some traumatic event. So during that training session, it was a couple of weeks, they played portions of a movie, The Onion Field. And that, um, when they turned the lights on, I was soaking wet. And the psychiatrist said to me, "Rich, what happened?" I said, "That reminds me of something that happened to me as a rookie cop." And it was like, wow. He said, "We need to talk." And so I had dinner with him that night. He said, "You're depressed, man." I said, "No, no, I'm good." He said, "No, really." He said, "You just learn to integrate it, and live with it." He said, "Because
Yeah.
you really," he said, "people look at you, they could tell." I said, "No, I'm good." So I finally went through, because DEA made the requirement to see a therapist mandatory.
There you go.
I told him that's the only way it's going to work. Because if somebody says, "Hey, Rich, go to the shrink," yeah, well, I'm going to lose my job if I don't.
Right.
So, so that was good. They made it
Yeah,
mandatory.
absolutely. Man, that is a wild story, my man. Jeez. Well, I'm glad you got the help you needed too. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
there's
Yeah,
there's a lot of guys from your generation that never got that, and I think the feds were probably a lot more progressive that way than
yeah,
local agencies were.
sure.
Thank God for that.
The thing I remember, Steve, is I tell people in law enforcement, I said one of the one of the many benefits that I derived out of being with DEA was that they forced us to have a physical every year. I carried that with me when I left the job. Police department physical when you come on the job, and that's it.
Still that way.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I get a physical because I have health insurance and it's
Yeah.
it's
Right.
covered.
Hmm.
But now I'm 45.
Hmm.
Through my 20s and 30s, if I remembered, I'd get one. But I
Yeah.
usually didn't. Because you're never gonna die. You're 25.
Exactly.
Nothing can happen to me. Yeah. So
Exactly.
that hasn't changed for us at all. Um,
Wow.
Rich, can you tell us about a positive or heartwarming situation you dealt with?
Yeah. We're sitting around the Norco office one night before the Christmas holidays. There's a few of us in the task force. There were some local cops and myself and a couple of agents. And I don't know. We got talking about drinking and stuff like that. And I talked about my uh, uh, intimate affair with Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
And one of the guys, after we left, called me the next day. He said, "Hey, Rich, can I talk to you? Can we have coffee?" Sure. So we went to have Dunkin' Donut. We went to have coffee, and he said, "I got a problem with alcohol. I need help." He said, "You said some things the other day that makes me feel I can trust you. Will you help me?" I said, "Absolutely." And then from that, another guy that was in the meeting, the same thing. So out of that meeting, out of just that general conversation, I
Yeah.
was able to help two people and
That's
on the
awesome.
road to recovery. Yeah, I really felt good about that.
That
And
is
then,
great.
of
Yeah.
course, the drug lectures, you get some kids come up later on in life when I was doing drug lectures in the schools and stuff. Hey, man, you really saved my life, man. And wow, yeah, you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that too. It seems to be a thing, especially in the police world. If the people that get help always end up helping others because
Right?
the only people cops trust are other cops. A lot of
That's right.
times, you
That's
know,
right.
they don't really want. That's something they integrated with our. Um, I forget what they're called. Crisis response teams. That
Yes.
they always have cops on them. It's not just.
Hmm.
It's not going to be all firefighters or clinicians or whatever. There has to be a law enforcement component, a cop in there,
Yes.
to kind of
Yes.
make it more comfortable.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's great. That's beautiful, Rich. Thank you for sharing that, man. Very popular question on the show. A lot of people listening are in backgrounds or thinking about becoming cops, and a lot of the listeners send me emails from like academy graduation, like pictures, and they listen to your guys' stories from this podcast, and it helps to really motivate them to actually do it. So, what advice would you give to new, police officers, special agents out there, just thinking about it or just getting into the field?
I would tell them to be true to yourself. Make sure that this is the field that you want to be in, because nothing prepares you for this job. Also, uh, be truthful, no matter what the cost may be. Be truthful. Uh, if you see something, say something. Uh, Also, make sure you guard your mental and physical well-being. Right? Take care of your family. Um, what else? Don't take someone else's uh, enemies. In other words, if you're on the job, somebody might say, "Oh, stay away from so and so because they're this, that, and the other."
Yeah.
Don't do that. You find out for yourself what that person's all about. What I did on the job, I tried to take the good that I saw in each of the people that I worked with, and I'd throw out the bad. I knew what I didn't want to be because I picked up these traits from other
Yeah.
officers that were really good people and agents.
That's smart. Yeah, I mean, the beefing in the world of law enforcement is real. Cops love nothing more than if you're not in the room to talk about your last case or the thing you screwed up or the cruiser you crashed or the guy's an idiot. But you're so right. Just give everybody a fair shake yourself. See what
Yeah,
they're all about.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
Yep.
because one day, it could be you. It could be you. And the job is stressful enough. And the thing that saddens me, Steve, is I think we've lost some of the camaraderie that was instilled in police departments, going back to the years when I was in there in the early '60s and '70s, and even some of the '80s. It seems like some of that is just being torn asunder. It's not as cohesive as it used to be.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
see that too. When I was a kid in the '80s, my dad there was always big police cookouts and
Yeah.
beach days and
Hmm.
families spending time together. And yeah, I mean, I think it's there's always that advice like, well, don't make your whole world the police. Like, have friends outside of law enforcement, which is good, but it's
Yeah.
almost like it swung too far the other way. People come to the
Yeah.
station and they leave, and then you have no contact in your personal life. You have no
Yes.
real, the bond has been weakened. It seems like.
Mhm. That's why I tell people family is very important because when it's all said and done, they're going to be there for you. You know, first couple, maybe first 6 months, year, you'll get phone calls from people, how you doing, blah blah blah, and then it starts to fade.
Yeah,
You know, and if you make the job your life, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough.
yeah,
Uh, we had a NYPD sergeant. I don't know if you heard a couple nights ago. Sat in his patrol car
I heard about
and
that.
took his life. And I think
Sad.
there's got to be a message behind what doing it in the car. There must be a message there for some reason, but there's too much of this.
Yeah,
You know, you know.
absolutely.
You tell people reach out. I have a private Facebook group. It's called Friends Who Honor Law Enforcement, Military, and First Responders, and it's a political free zone because I don't get like politics.
Yeah,
But we
smart.
but we but we honor the fallen, or even give recognition to people who have got promotions and stuff like that. But I've started it in 2015. It's still going strong.
That's awesome. Yeah, if you want, I could put a link to that in the show notes so people
Oh, okay.
can check
Yeah.
it out. Um, Rich, words of wisdom there. Thank you for sharing that. And let's talk a little bit about Wounds to Wisdom, the book you in part authored. Sounds amazing. How many authors, how many first responders and police officers and veterans were involved in making the book?
29.
Wow.
29. We have a couple of U.S. SEALs, Navy SEALs. We have a couple of Army Apache helicopter pilots. We have firefighters, law enforcement, dispatchers. In the past, people never thought about dispatchers.
Right.
You know, you're sending people on these calls, whether the officer got killed on that call. Now you're thinking, did I listen to that call properly? Did I do the right thing?
Sure.
Uh, and so we have dispatchers. We have Gold Star mothers, Gold Star sister, uh, and we have a couple of moms whose uh, sons came out of the war but then took their lives. So
Mm,
it's quite a mix of people. We have one general in there too, Army general.
wow. I love short story books. It sounds great.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And that's available on Amazon. I will absolutely put a link to that in the show notes. Rich, also, I hear rumors that you are working on your own book to come out sometime in the future, which sounds like will be an amazing read.
Yeah, it's been a work in progress. I would get discouraged sometimes, but now the editor that did the book, that edited this book that we're in, said, "Hey, Rich, I want to do your book." And I said, "Oh my gosh."
Now it's on.
And she's good because you know how someone will say, "Give me a double spaced thing."
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Send it to me any way you want. I'll figure it out."
That's great. Perfect.
So what more can you ask for?
That's awesome. Absolutely. When you're ready, just let me know. When you get everything finalized, you have the links and all that, I'll shoot it out to the TPS audience, and we'll show our support to you for sure.
Yeah. I just want people to realize that back then we didn't have radios, walkie-talkies. We didn't have your protection, any of that stuff. I think most people think that stuff has been around for hundreds of years, but it's not.
No, not at all. Yeah, that sounds fascinating, my man. Can't wait to read it. And it was an absolute honor to have you on the show, Rich. Thank you for taking the time to come on. I got to do the show outro. Can you hang on for just like 3 minutes when I do that?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. The great Richard Oakley, guys. Really, really fun and interesting stories. So honored to have him on the show. This is a time in the show when I thank the Patreon supporters. Thank you, everybody, so much. It means so much to me that you join the Patreon and support the show. Helps pay all the bills. Just awesome. Who I'm talking about is Lieutenant Andy Biggs. Great and powerful Andy Biggs. The great Lieutenant Thomas Connell. Now the sergeants. Adam Alexander, everybody. Adam McMahon. Adam Mehall. Ben Peters, everybody. The great Bentley Barnett. Brad Thompson. Dan Carlson from Burley Boards. Check him out on Instagram. Great woodworker. Sherry Finch. The great Sherry Finch. Clark Luckoff. The great Dave Ellman, Dennis Carrasquillo, everybody, Doug and Kelly Newman. Love you guys. Hope you're having fun in Wyoming. Dylan Mosher, everybody. The great Elliot Sykes. Gary Steiner, ladies and gentlemen. The great George Cariotis, everybody. Thank you, George. Greg Gadboy, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, sir. Jake Pinedo, the great Jake Pinedo. James Rose, the great Jason Labrie, everybody. Jason Lau, John Jordan, none other than the great John Jordan. John Shoemaker, John and Aaron Kate. Love you guys. See you at church. The great Kyle Roberts, Lauren Stimson, everybody. The handsome Lane Campbell, the great Lisa Gano, Michael Roach from Roach Machine AI Solutions. Check them out. Iceman from Motorcop Chronicles. Check him out. Nancy Hammond, everybody. The great Nick Adams. Paul Maloney, past guest, amazing guy. Thank you, Paul. Sergeant Raymond Arsenal, ladies and gentlemen. The great Richard Tolles. Keep on trucking, brother. Stay safe out there. Sasha McNabb, everybody. Scott Young, Sean Clifford, Seth Wright, Sheriff Ronald Long, Tammy Walsh, holding it down at dispatch. The great Tony Fahey. William James Long, this Deputy William James Long to you. Thank you very much. The great Zachary Pleat and the handsome George Tessier. Thank you, sir. Love you. See you at church. Guys, the list is getting long, and I don't mind that at all. Thank you so much for your support. Link is in the show notes. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.